Hey guys, what's up? It's Gabriel Santos from gfsantos.com. And in today's video, I'm going to talk about why quitting weed, sorry for the camera work guys, why quitting weed is so difficult for some people. Myself included when I was, really going through my bouts with weed addiction, if you want to call it that. Just a little context. I'm a psychology major. I graduated from UC Davis with psychology. I'm a certified life coach, and life coaches specialize on helping people move forward and create results, as well as lasting fulfillments in their lives. All right, I've studied the work of Tony Robbins and Tim Ferriss, and all of the, not all of the, but so many available resources in terms of health, wealth, happiness, success, habits, all that stuff. Okay, and I'm someone who had their own personal breakthroughs and success with quitting weed, and I know what it's like. It took me 8 years of really trying to figure this thing out and failing and all these kind of things to get to where I am now. All of that to share with you at least one tidbit on why quitting weed is so difficult. In my experience, it's because on some level, even though smoking weed may seem to have negative consequences, whether it's spending lots of money or feeling unproductive or gaining lots of weight or isolating yourself from social situations and the world, or maybe your grades are lowering, despite all those negative things, it's hard to stop because on some level, weed still serves a very valuable purpose for you and your life. Because if it didn't, then it would be easy to drop. And more specifically, there's much more positivity and helpfulness that comes from doing it than not doing it, despite how bad things might look in your life. And so, meaning to say that whatever weed brings you, it alleviates a lot of pain, whether it's physical or emotional or mental. And so, what you can do with this information is really normalize that even though all these bad things are happening and you're aware of that in terms of weed use, that you still do it not because you're a bad person or not even necessarily because you're a weak person, you have a weak will. It's because on some level, smoking weed still brings you value. It still allows you to do something that you have a hard time achieving or doing without weed. My assumption and from my experience is that there's some kind of feeling or bodily state or mental state that ultimately has a person continue to go to a substance like weed despite negative consequences like lowered grades and tons of money lost. And in my case, what destructive weed use looked like for me is that didn't I instead of dealing with the problems and the stresses of my life head on, I would feel something like guilt or maybe insecurity or anxiety from those life situations. And instead of dealing with them in order to reduce those feelings, I just smoked weed instead. And although smoking weed and being stoned helps momentarily, it doesn't ever solve the root of those other stressors. So, for example, if your grades are crappy, you will always forever be stressed out about how crappy your grades are. And it doesn't matter how much weed you smoke, unless your grades start to shift, which means you will have shift as a person, then there's no amount of weed that you could smoke that will permanently take away that stress For real. And there is stress that comes with, there's so many different stressors, so many different thoughts and emotions that happen to us as people for various reasons, depending on what the situation is. Okay. And weed brilliantly kind of solves all of those emotional issues temporarily. Like, I mean, and this is such an exaggeration, but your leg can be blown off, and if you smoke some weed, like, you will be chilling for like at least a minute, you know? So, and that's why medical marijuana is such a beautiful option for people. Um, what's not okay, I mean, it's not about being okay and not okay, but like, there is no replacement for overcoming challenges and growing as a person and solving them as they need to be solved. For many of us, we've turned to weed as our solution to solve our stress, when really what would actually solve our stress is solving the situation that's causing us stress. All right, so, and what is so ironic, is that for people who become addicted to weed, and this is coming from experience, is that one of our main stresses becomes how we should not be smoking as much. Like, oh my goodness, we should not be smoking as much. And so we now have stress from weed itself. And we go to weed to solve our stress from weed. How crazy is that? And not crazy as in you are crazy or I'm crazy for doing that, but crazy as in like, what a crazy little cycle that we find ourselves in, where it's like, okay, I'm so stressed out about how I have the inability to control myself when it comes to weed. And then you set on this journey to control yourself for a month straight, meaning not smoking. And then on day 2, you're so stressed out about being able to succeed or fail that you just smoke, because you're like, oh my God, your brain and your body are like, I don't want to fail, or oh God, this is so stressful, I just need to smoke some weed. You know what I'm saying? And so it's hard. Like, I admit to you all, it's hard. Now, in terms of a solution, honestly, and this could be a video in itself. But one of the reasons that really had me like reduce the urge to smoke weed is really, it wasn't even that the urge was reduced. It was that I realized that whenever I choose to smoke, whether it's out of stress or out of love, if you want to call it, or self-serving benefit, I'm choosing. And so the urges may not have reduced, but I was no longer a victim to the cravings. I felt like I had control of saying yes or no. And I didn't realize that in all those times when I set out to quit for however long, and I failed to do so, it's not because of the thoughts. It's not because of the cravings. Are they loud? Yes. Are they influential? Yes. Do they move us? Like, do they like persuade us to make decisions against our benefit? Yes. But ultimately, the person that decides to smoke the joint is you, not the thought. The thought comes and you choose to abide by the thought or not. Look, this is kind of an off-topic example, but when I was hiking up Mount Whitney, which is the tallest peak mountain in the U.S. other than Hawaii and Alaska, my brain was like, if we slip, we die. If we slip, we die. If we slip, we die. And were there thoughts and emotions around that? Yes, it was fucking scary. Did I die? No. Right? Like, I had the choice to move my body and focus despite these thoughts that were tripping me out. And I really do understand that the cravings of smoking weed are fucking powerful. So powerful. It's like you become a whole different person. It's almost like you feel like you're gonna die. Maybe not that to that extent, but the suffering a person feels when all their body and brain want is to smoke some weed, and to deny that and to be with that and sit as your body like aches for weed. Oh God. And so in terms of practical advice, I advise you to start exercising heavily and hydrating and drinking water and having something else other than quitting be like your target goal in life. Like, you need to find other ways to achieve a feeling of success other than not smoking weed. And ideally, a goal that really fulfills you, something that you've really wanted to work towards, whether it's your body, whether it's your money, whether it's your spirituality, anything. And so really what this is in terms of quitting weed or changing your weed habits from negative to positive, it's an opportunity to transform your entire life from how it is now, which is likely like negative and maybe even depressing a little bit, to one that is happy and fulfilling and positive and filled with results that you want and dream of, and self-control and high self-esteem. And what I'll leave you guys is this. So wherever you're at in terms of weed, whether you feel like you can't even say no to one joint or you can't even go 3 days, whether cravings are so powerful that you don't know what to do, the honest truth is that how you are now in terms of weed and how you feel about it, it's a product of your own actions and choices. I'm sorry. That's a hard pill to swallow, but a big part of being addicted to something is being a victim in your mind and in your body. Just as, what has a person be 500 pounds is that they ate the way that they ate and they didn't exercise the way that they didn't exercise. That's why they're 500 pounds. It's not because McDonald's served hamburgers that they're 500 pounds. Okay, it's not because you get a craving in your body that you're 500 pounds. You ultimately, albeit unconsciously, chose to be 500 pounds. Like, does anyone want to be 500 pounds? No. And is someone thinking as they're eating the Big Mac, like, oh, this is going to make me fat? No, it's solving a problem. And that's why this is so tricky. I get this is so tricky, but if you're going to be someone who takes ownership of your life and takes ownership of your weed relationship and the way that you use weed, then, well, you're going to have to accept that at one time in your life, you weren't this way with weed. You didn't have these thoughts. You didn't have these cravings. And not everyone goes through this, but for you specifically, many times you said, you know what, I shouldn't smoke today, but you did. And so you've trained yourself to say yes, even when you want to say no. You trained yourself to do that. And so now you're weak when it comes to saying no, when it's time to say no. So, unfortunately, or fortunately, it is on you now to train yourself to say no when it is time to say no. And it hurts at first. Oh boy, it fucking hurts at first. It's like, I don't want to say no. All I want to do is say yes. Trust me. You say yes enough times when you really mean no, and you beat yourself up so many times, you'll get like, okay, it's time to fucking take a stand right here. Like, enough is enough. Enough is enough. Take control. Take control. And look, you may not win every battle. You may not win every fight, but that's okay. That's okay. Don't lay down and submit. Fight for yourself. Fight. You gotta fight. If you don't fight, well, you're always going to lose. So, I hope one of you really hears this and is inspired in whatever way to really take action and really get it done. I recently read a book on Greg Popovich, who is a very successful 5-time championship-winning coach in the NBA. And there are times with his players and his team that he doesn't even give them like coaching advice. He's like, well, he holds his players to their own self accountability. That he's like, well, look, if you guys want to win, then you're just gonna have to figure it out because you're the one that's turning the ball over. You're the one that's missing shots. Like, look, if you want to quit weed, then you just gotta quit weed. If you wanna smoke weed just on the weekends, well, then you just gotta smoke weed on the weekends. Like what it. At the end of the day, it's honestly not. It's honestly not a big secret. Like, how do you pick up the controller? How do you not pick up the controller? And I get that it's not that simple. Like your mind and body, in like I don't have an addictive relationship to the controller, but ultimately, action wise, it's this is how do you smoke? How do you pick up a joint and smoke it? How do you not pick up a joint and smoke it? Okay. And what's crazy is that it's not that simple, right? Like if this were really a joint in your brain and your body, you're probably like, oh God, should we do it? Oh, I want to do it. Oh, and then you have the feelings like, oh God. And so I get it. It's hard as fuck. But look, like when push comes to shove, you just gotta say no. And if you really want to solve the emotional side of it, then fuck. Start exercising or something. And I really do trust that like deep down you know what to do, and it just might be like an effort issue, you know. And I don't mean to harp on anyone because I know how hard it is, and so I get that you're trying your best, but um you know, like, well, something will change, whether it's this video or the next video, or something in your life will have you see that like either you need to change or shit's gonna go way south, or you just get that you are the owner of your whole life and that you have full control of whether or not you're smoking today. Full control. No one else has control of that other than you. So yeah, you can do it. I know it's hard. You could do it. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but it'll happen, okay? And it'll be great, and you'll be free, and life will never be the same again. All right, guys, that is it for today. gfsantos.com. Gabriel Santos signing out. Thank you for bearing with this horrible camera work, and I'll see you next time. Peace.